Drew, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you, Katie. Appreciate it. Like Katie said, thanks for giving up a Tuesday evening to hear a talk about milkweed in the classroom. And I scroll back up here to start at the end of there. And Miles from Monarch. So definitely appreciate you guys giving up an evening to hear about these two new programs. So nice thing about a small group is that it can be fairly interactive, or at least I hope it's interactive here. So feel free, if you do have a question, just unmute yourself and ask it if you would like throughout the presentation. If not, save your question, write it down, and we can address those questions at the end. And we'll definitely address the milkweed and cattle question at the end there for you. Got a good answer for that one for sure. Like Katie said, my name is Drew Larsen. I'm the Director of Education and Outreach with Pheasants Forever and Quail Forever. I've been with the organization almost 16 years now. I started out as a regional representative in western Nebraska, eastern Colorado, and then for about the last really 10 years or so, 9 years, I've been in our education and outreach department, working to develop programs that chapters and staff can deliver at the local level, which is what we're going to be talking about today. So I'm excited to be here talking about these two programs with you folks tonight. So there's basically four things we're going to cover in the presentation. Really, we're going to focus on two different programs, our Miles from Monarchs program and our Milkweed in the Classroom program. We're going to talk a little bit about COVID. I'm sure, like me, you're tired of hearing about COVID, but we'll talk about how these two programs are absolutely COVID approved, and we can do these programs even if things continue to be shut down throughout the country. And then lastly, I'll hit on a web page or blog site where you can find lots of different E&O resources, mainly about these two programs, but other E&O programs we have available for chapters and things you might be able to use at the local level. So we'll just kind of go through that blog page, and so you guys kind of know where to find information if you're doing education and outreach events in your local community. So that's what we're going to be covering here. And these two programs are brand new. Really, you were the first chapters to really start to hear about these things. We've had Miles from Monarchs going for a little bit, but we really haven't promoted it to chapters. We've been kind of running it at the national level, but you'll hear and learn about ways your chapter can become involved in some of this stuff. So I will say that because these programs are so new, we don't have a ton of stuff developed yet. We're still kind of in the process of developing some of these things. So again, I'll cover some of that stuff in the presentation, but not everything is quite where we want it for both of these programs. But this is the nice thing about it, because they are new. Here's an opportunity for you guys to offer suggestions on things you might need to help sell these programs at the local level. All right, let's start with Miles from Monarchs. So this kind of started as an idea with a group called Monarch Joint Venture. They're a nonprofit group out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. And they're just a nonprofit just like us, but they are super focused on monarchs and providing information and research around monarchs. And I just got to know that group pretty well at a number of different national meetings I was attending throughout the country, and thought this might be a really great partnership effort to help kind of raise awareness and potentially raise some money for monarch habitat and monarch research. So it is a joint effort nationally between Pheasants Forever, Quail Forever, and Monarch Joint Venture. So really what the program is it's a campaign. And it's a campaign to raise awareness around the decline of the monarch butterfly population. And it's also a campaign to raise money to do local habitat projects, as well as help support national Pheasants Forever and Quail Forever programming, as well as Monarch Joint Venture research. All the money that's raised at the national level gets split 50-50 with Monarch Joint Venture and Pheasants Forever. So it really is a true partnership with both organizations. Those are the two main goals, is to help raise awareness around monarchs and to raise a little bit of money. So who can participate in Miles from Monarchs? And really anybody can participate. But when we first kind of developed this, we really kind of tried to focus on people who were just already avid runners and who like to participate in 5Ks and 10Ks and half marathons and full marathons and that kind of thing. But we've broadened it since then. So really anybody can participate, but I think folks that you see here on this list, or the groups that you see here on this list, are probably the ones that would most likely participate in a campaign like this. So runners, walkers, cyclists, hikers, bikers, paddlers, other non-governmental organizations, state agencies, federal agencies, and certainly Pheasants Forever and Quail Forever chapters. And then we're through schools in there too. I'll talk a little bit about that, how we might be able to engage some schools in this campaign as well. But in a nutshell, really anybody can participate in this campaign if they're just somewhat passionate about raising some money or awareness around monarchs and monarch habitat. So we've developed this in a way that there's 3 ways to participate in the campaign. The first way is the easiest way for the general public to participate. And that's just basically if they provide a general donation to the campaign, or they can provide a general donation to the campaign. If they donate at least $30 or more, they will receive a cool t-shirt that you see there. It's got our logos on the back as well as Monarch Joint Venture. Also designed if you were going to do an event of some kind, you could put local sponsors on the back of the shirt too, but that's the shirt that gets shipped to you once you provide at least a $30 donation. So again, that's just kind of a general plea to the general public to, hey, if you want to make a contribution, you don't want to necessarily set a mileage goal and run a bunch of miles or do that kind of thing, but you just want to contribute to the cause. There's a way for you to do that. And if you donate $30 or more, you can get a cool t-shirt to wear around. So that's number 1, and certainly the easiest way for people to participate. Number 2 is that people can create a personal fundraiser around the campaign. So many of you, if you're on social media, have probably seen this before, where people will try to raise money for a certain cause, and they'll try to engage their social network to contribute money for the cause they're passionate about. And the unique thing about this is that it's really kind of designed to get people out and get people active. So we really try to target people who like to run and bike for this particular campaign here, the personal fundraiser campaign. So the idea there is that a person can sign up and set a mileage goal and a time period in which they want to accomplish that mileage goal. So for example, we did a campaign over Pollinator Week a couple weeks ago. Person could go on there and say, hey, I'm going to create a personal fundraiser, and I'm going to run 50 miles over Pollinator Week. And then that person can then put that out to their social media networks and say, hey, support me in my effort to run 50 miles during Pollinator Week. And I also want to raise $200 for Monarch Joint Venture and Pheasants Forever and Quail Forever. And they would get their social media networks to contribute a little bit of cash to the cause. So that's a little bit more involved than the option number 1, but certainly we see a lot of these things on social media, and we thought that there would be enough people out there that were passionate about monarchs and monarch conservation that they would help raise money for the cause and maybe inspire some people to set a fitness goal as well and get outside and be a little bit more active. But again, more of a personal way to be involved with the campaign. So those are options 1 and 2. The third one here was really designed more for chapters when we put this together. So I think this is the one that you guys might be interested in the most. So your chapter can really set up their own Miles for Monarchs event. So you can organize your own fun run, fun walk, 5K, 10K, whatever it may be, to help raise money for a local project, or if you want to give the money to all the national campaign, you can do that too. But I think that's the cool thing about this option, is that really was designed for a way for chapters, a different way for chapters to raise money outside the banquet model. So if you go this route where you want to develop and organize your own event, the way it's really set up is that all the money that's raised for the event, 70% of that stays with the local chapter, so they can use that money to fund a local habitat project. And then 30% goes back to the overall campaign, which is split between Monarch Joint Venture and Pheasants Forever. So the majority of the money stays with the local chapter to be able to use those funds for a local habitat project. And the reason that we keep 30% of that is that there certainly is a cost to run the program. So you get to take advantage of really the program, where people can sign up for the event, and we can capture payments and all those kinds of things where they're secure. And so really there isn't a whole lot of work on your end to be able to sign people up and send people emails and all that kind of thing. Basically, you get your own page on the website for your event, and you send people to that page to sign up for your particular event. All the money comes into the Monarch joint venture, and then at the end of the day, they cut you 70% of all the funds that were raised for the event. So this is definitely the one we thought chapters might take advantage of for just an alternative fundraising event, and to try to kind of attract a new audience, and where you guys could raise some money for a local project. All right, so just a couple ideas on how you might be able to take advantage of that option as a chapter. And like I say, we haven't done a ton of just our own Miles for Monarchs event. We've really just tried to rely on individual donations and people to develop their own individual fundraisers. So we haven't done a ton of this yet. That's why it's still really new, but we have done a few. So we had a biologist in Kansas that actually incorporated this for her habitat tour. It's kind of a habitat, she called it a habitat walk. So it was actually at a city park where a chapter had done a bunch of habitat work around the city lake. And so the chapter and the biologist did this kind of habitat walk. They used all the tools within Miles for Monarchs to be able to sign people up for the tour. I think they asked people for only $10 to sign up to do it. So they didn't raise a ton of money, but they had a really good turnout. They had like 40 people, and this was a really small community in Kansas where they did this. But they had around 20 some people show up for the event, and they did the kind of pollinator walk, pollinator tour of the project, and it ended up working really, really well. So that could be one option for your chapter, is to work with your local Farm Bill wildlife biologist or coordinating biologist to set up some type of either habitat tour, habitat walk on maybe a project that you guys have done as a chapter, to highlight that project and then maybe raise a little bit of money around it as well. The other option would be to potentially set up even a virtual event. So we just did this over Pollinator Week a couple of weeks ago. So obviously COVID has limited everybody's ability to get together and have events, actual get-together events. So the nice thing about this program is it can absolutely be done virtually. So you can set up your own chapter's virtual event, have people sign up for the event, track their miles personally, and share that on their social media, and still raise money for a local habitat project. So that could be another option. And then the third one would be if you just set, once we get to the point where we can actually begin to get together and we can hold events again, you could hold your own walk/run as a chapter. And certainly that would be the most involved option in terms of there's a fair amount of planning that goes into planning some type of 5K or 10K. But if you wanted to go that route, you could do that as well. The second way that we potentially could, just an idea for chapters where they could leverage Miles for Monarchs, is to actually work with a local school. So a lot of schools will work with other NGOs or groups to raise money for different causes. A lot of schools out there, I get calls, multiple calls a year from schools that would like to create a outdoor classroom or some type of outdoor habitat project on school grounds. A lot of times what they're asking for is if we have financial support to do that. And we do have some programs available that if they're large enough that we can financially help out that kind of a project. But a lot of times they're really small type gardens and we don't have funding for those kinds of projects. But this could be a way where we could actually engage the school in the actual fundraising effort for that project. So we could actually engage the school and engage the students to help raise money and put on some type of virtual run/walk, or actually do the walk at the school, where the kids will be out raising money for that particular project to help pay for that particular project. So we haven't done one yet. We've been kind of throwing around the idea and trying to develop some tools for schools that they might be able to use this option. But it may be one a chapter could certainly lead and work with the school to do just that. I think that's an absolute possibility for us to do. since we do get so many requests for those kinds of projects. And then the third one, where I think that this is probably the easiest one for doing your own event, is to partner with an organization that's already doing some type of an event, or maybe also doing a run. So an example would be here in Nebraska, we have a huge outdoor expo. We actually have 3 of them across the state. They occur in the spring of the year. And really at these expos, they invite, it's open to the general public, but they can do anything outdoor related. So if they want to shoot trap, shoot bows, shoot pellet guns, kayak, they have all those things available for the general public to try. So we worked with them to develop a 5K run the morning of that event. It was a Miles from Monarchs event. So it was a project, it was an event that was already taking place. It was a well-known event that's very, very well attended already. And we just worked with our state agency here to say, hey, we want to use your event and do a 5K run on the front end of it. And the money that we raise from that event, we're going to take that money and do an actual pollinator project on that state park, or on those state parks where we're hosting these events, or where the Game and Parks is hosting their event. So in my mind, that may be the easiest way for chapters to take advantage of this program, is to really work with other organizations that are already hosting an event and that are already well known and already have good attendance at those events. So you don't necessarily have to do all the marketing around getting people to your event. You're using an existing event and just, tacking on a Miles from Monarchs run on the front end to raise a little bit of money and awareness around raising money for a local habitat project. So, obviously the first 2 ways for somebody just to make a general donation, or if people want to develop their own individual fundraisers, they can just go right to the website that you see listed there at the bottom, and they can sign up and develop that all on their own. The program makes it super easy to do that. They don't need to contact anybody. They can just do that all on their own. If you would like to host your own Miles for Monarchs event, then you will want to reach out to either Ella or myself, and then we can work together to create your page on the platform and get you set up on what the cost is going to be and how that platform can be used locally, and help you market your event as well. So it's a little bit more labor intensive, but you just want to reach out to either Ella or myself, and we can get you set up on the platform to host your own event. So that's kind of it for Miles for Monarchs. Like I say, it's still new, still trying out some different things. We did our first virtual event over Pollinator Week that I thought, as far as work that went into hosting that event, it was minimal. Really all we had to do was try to market the event. And it was pretty simple to raise. We ended up raising almost $4,000 from that event alone, just that week-long event. So it was a pretty easy way to raise a little bit of money for the cause, and I'm sure chapters could do the same locally, especially if you've got a good social media following. I think that'd be something easily you can do. So we're going to transition to milkweed in the classroom here, another brand new program. And this program is even newer than Miles for Monarchs. But what this program is really, it's a turnkey kit that's designed for students or for teachers to use the kit to grow milkweed plants in the classroom, and also comes with curriculum where teachers can teach their students about issues like the issues around like the monarch butterfly or lack of conservation for the monarch butterfly. So in a nutshell, it's just a turnkey kit that we can ship to schools where they can use them in the classroom. I should back up a little bit here. So we did a pilot of this program in Nebraska last spring. So we wrote a grant through the Nebraska Environmental Trust and worked with the University of Nebraska to kind of develop this program and the curriculum around it and the guidebooks. And the pilot program was working extremely well. I was really surprised about how well it was working for a pilot up until COVID hit and schools had to close down. And that certainly threw a wrench in things for us for the program, because some schools shut down entirely and teachers had to leave their milkweed in their classroom and couldn't even go back to get it. Now the good news there is we did learned that there were some teachers that were in the pilot that actually were able to go back and get their milkweed plants that they were growing, take them home, and then they used them in their kind of virtual lessons that they were doing with their students after COVID hit. So nice thing about that is that we have an option here. If schools continue to be shut down here this fall and next spring, there is opportunity to continue this program even with schools shut down. And believe it or not, they're actually looking for these kinds of things to be able to teach their kids about conservation. So I think there's still opportunity for this program even if schools are closed down this next year. So what's in the kit? So the kit really is turnkey. There really isn't much that a local teacher would have to provide to make this work. So kit comes with seed, soil, planting containers, a couple grow lights, a timer, spray bottle, comes with a curriculum book, and the curriculum is developed for grades 3, 3rd through 5th grade, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. Also comes with a growing guide for the teacher that guide, there's a hard copy guide, but that guide will be moved to an online guide here very, very shortly. It will be ready to go for this next spring for sure. So we'll still keep the hard copy guide, but we have learned that teachers would like more visuals with the guide. So the guide will be broken into actual set of video series that teachers can go to whenever they need to learn about how to grow milkweed from seed in the classroom. And then the kit also comes with Pheasants Forever or Quail Forever, depending on what, I guess it's all the same. Quail Forever, Pheasant Forever, Quail Forever, Ringneck, and Whistler memberships. So every student in the classroom will be members of Pheasants Forever and Quail Forever, which is really cool. So the only thing you don't see in the photo there, I believe, is the soil. Didn't get a picture of that, but it really does. I mean, that's everything a teacher needs to make this program work right there. And it actually does not take up very much space in the classroom either, which was one thing we learned early on, is that the teachers were very adamant about making sure this didn't take up a ton of space in the classroom. So that's the kit. So how can chapters participate? So it can be as easy. There's really 2 ways for chapters to participate. Well, actually 3. If a chapter just wanted to make a contribution, the kits with everything that you see there, everything you see on that list, it's right around $500 as the cost for that. It includes the memberships, includes the seed, everything that you see there in the photo is right around $500. So if a chapter just wanted to make a $500 contribution to say, hey, use this and give it to a teacher who wants to have a kit in their classroom, you can do that. You could sponsor a kit for a local classroom, a local teacher that you may know, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade teacher. Again, $500 to do that, and we work with the teacher and have the kit shipped directly to the teacher, and the Pheasants Forever and Quail Forever staff is the one who communicates with the teacher and provides them the training and those kinds of things. So it's super easy and hands-off for chapters. It really is just about cutting a check for $500 and sponsoring a kit for a local classroom. It can be that easy. It can certainly be more involved in that if you want it to be, but it can be as easy as literally cutting a check for $500 where you're sponsoring a kit for a local teacher. The third way is that if you're a chapter who is already taking advantage of our youth pollinator habitat program that has been renamed to our pollinator habitat outreach program, it's a great way to use this in conjunction with that project. So let's say you're working with a local 4th grade class to do a pollinator habitat outreach project with that classroom. You can actually use this as an expense to where that classroom now gets a kit where they're actually growing plants in the classroom and then taking the plants that they grow in the classroom and planting them on your youth pollinator habitat project or pollinator habitat outreach project. So just another cool way where we can actually use two programs together. The nice thing is, if you're taking advantage of the grants we have available for our pollinator habitat outreach program, you can just use this as an expense for that program and be reimbursed for half of your project cost. So it really only costs you $250 for the kit. So another good way to do that, we actually had a couple chapters here in Nebraska that we worked with on the pilot program that were doing that, and it ended up working out pretty well again until COVID hit us. So pretty easy way for chapters to really participate in this program right here. So here's kind of how the timeline works for this program. So, once school gets back in session here, at least we hope the school gets back in session here this fall, chapters would reach out to their local third, fourth, or fifth grade teacher, say, hey, we got this program available. Would you be interested in using it in your classroom? They say, yeah, we'd love to. Then the chapter and the teacher would work together to order a kit. Again, anytime in the fall, really up until December, we'll probably have a cutoff of sometime like mid-December, somewhere in there, so we can get everything ordered. And then once we have all the orders in by the end of December, and then kits will be sent directly to the schools sometime in the month of January. And at that point in time, teachers will provide links to all the online training videos and that kind of thing, so teachers can get up to speed on actually how to grow these plants in the classroom. And then during the spring semester, so starting in February, mid-February, we'll actually start to grow the plants in the classroom. And then they'll grow those plants out throughout the entire spring semester. And students will be able to either take their plants home with them and plant them in their own backyards, or if the school was looking to do some type of schoolyard habitat project or garden at their school, they can take those plants and plant them in the garden project. Or if you're a chapter, again, like I said earlier, if you're already doing a pollinator habitat outreach project, then you can work with that classroom and take the plants that they grow in the classroom and plant them actually on the project site. So there's some options there on what the kids do with the plants after they grow them. So it's really as simple as that. That's how it works. We'll have some other things tied to that in terms of, obviously there's curriculum that goes with it that the teachers can use. We will have some pre and post surveys that we will send out to the students and the teachers once they sign up, and then after they get through the program as well. And we're going to hopefully use that data that will help us raise even more money for this program going forward. And hopefully, our goal here is to, right now we don't have a funder at the moment to help offset some of the costs to the kits, but it's my goal and our team's goal to raise some money to help offset the cost of the kits for chapters. So what I'd like to do is do it similar that we do it with the pollinator habitat outreach program, where we can find a funder to cover half the cost of the kit. So we'll match the funder's money 1-to-1. We'll help local chapters out by splitting the cost of the kit and getting those kits in those local classrooms. So that's the goal. I feel pretty confident about it, but it's so new that we just haven't gotten there, with the exception of Nebraska, where we did write a grant to kind of pilot the program. And right here is a flyer that we do have developed. Like I say, we're really still developing a lot of the marketing materials around this program. And to be honest with you, we really weren't even set to make this program national. We really weren't going to do that for another year. We wanted to have 2 years of the pilot kind of wrapped up and done so we can learn a few things. But we had such a demand for this program in year one. We had way more teachers that wanted to do the pilot than what we had money for and what we could do. And then when COVID hit, the demand was even higher. And then we all felt, at least the partners that were involved, felt pretty confident that it worked so well that we could go ahead and make this national this year and get it out there and get it going. So this is a one-page handout that you could use with a local teacher or something to kind of help explain the program. And like I say, we will have some promotional videos that will be put together here that we'll have ready to go here later this fall that you could use as well to help kind of promote the program and help sell it to a local teacher. And like I said before, the great thing about both of these programs is that they really are COVID approved. So, I know in Nebraska, school districts are starting to kind of make decisions around what they're going to do here this fall as far as having students back in the classroom. Some districts are, some districts aren't. So we just don't really know yet. We don't know what the future is going to bring. But if your district decides that they are not going to bring students back, the great thing about this program in particular is that we can do it virtually. So this is an example here a project that we actually did in Minnesota. It was a youth pollinator habitat project, but the chapter had planned, but obviously COVID had changed their plans. So they did some reworking of the program and actually did the project virtually, and it ended up working out really, really well. So you can see there that they sent the t-shirts to all their students beforehand, had a day where they went through all the educational activities virtually that you see here that they're doing right now with the students wearing their t-shirts. So Milkweed in the classroom will even be easier to do it because obviously it will be up to the teacher that will be the one. The teacher will be the one who's responsible for kind of delivering that, and we'll be providing tools for those teachers if that does happen, if they do have to do this program virtually. So, and I can say both programs, Miles from Monarchs and Milkweed in the Classroom, both can be done in our new COVID era. So lastly, we're just going to hit on some E&O resources. So I want to just show you guys, if you aren't aware, you have not been on our PFQF Habitat Education blog, where you can find that blog and just I'll just navigate some of the things that are on that blog for you, so you know that there are a number of things that have been developed that you might be able to use at various education outreach events that you do throughout the year. So let me reshare my screen here. Can everybody see the website? There we go. Give me a thumbs up if you can see it there, Kim. All right, very good. All right, so I should preface this by saying that we're in the process of moving all the material from this blog to our new website. So we've been in the process of developing a new Pheasant Forever and Quail Forever web pages for quite some time now, but we're finally to the point where we have most of the material moved and we're just about ready to go live. But we'll keep this page going for quite some time and just provide links to our national web pages once we get them complete. But for right now, this is where we're housing all of our habitat education materials that chapters could use for education and outreach events. So this is the website address right here, the blog address. It's kind of a long one. It's just pfqfhabitated.blogspot.com. So you just go to that website, and it has information on all of our education and outreach programs. So our youth pollinator habitat program, which has now been rebranded our pollinator habitat outreach program. Many of you might be familiar with that. See that right there. You scroll down and it's got everything you need to know about the program. So grant applications, there's recorded webinars to learn about the program, all the seed order forms, partner logos, curriculum, all the hands-on education activities. So even if you're going to an event where you're being asked to provide kind of a hands-on educational activity, we have some turnkey activities right here that all you got to do is download and print them off, and you can use them at a local event. Also have some really cool fact sheets that you can use to print off for any event that you're doing. So I'll pull one of those up just for fun. Again, these are meant to just be printed off, so you can just print off the front page here. If you're doing more of an adult type of an event where just adults are going to be attending, provide some real basic facts on the ringneck pheasant. And then if you were doing more of a youth theme event, you can print it front to back, where there's a coloring section and kind of a fun true or false test based on the front page for students to answer. So we've got lots of different species that you can, and we're continuing to add to that list here. We got some more in the works, but you can see that we got quite a list of different species that you can print off. So everything you need to know about the Pollinator Habitat Outreach Program can be found right there on that tab. Other outreach materials. So again, that's mainly our fact sheets that I just kind of went over. We do have a pollinator guidebook if you're doing a pollinator habitat outreach program, our curriculum, activities, coloring sheets, other coloring sheets if you're doing an outreach events with really young participants, to have those. Program results and videos, that's just more on our results of all of our programs. Take Habitat Home, which I'm sure you might be aware of. It's been out for a while now, but we have these brochures, these trifold brochures that we developed that actually have a small seed packet inside them where you can plant a 10 by 10 area of pollinator habitat. So lots of chapters are ordering these for their outreach events or even for their banquets to provide their participants. So it's you can get 50 of them for $100 and get them shipped right to you. Let's see, conservation clays, I believe, is the next one. So we developed these kits that you can use if you're working with a trap team or if you're just doing a fun shoot sometime, where you can actually, it comes with stickers and the seed and some chalk where you can make what we call these conservation clays that have the seed in them. It actually idea came from the great state of Illinois, working with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service there. We had a lot of chapters asking if we could create these kits and they could use them at some of their events. But kind of a fun way where you can, does not include the clays, but includes the seed, the stickers, and some of the chalk, where you can put together your own clay kits and then shoot those over a project or something like that, kind of for fun and fun promotional activity that you can do. And then lastly, we have our Miles from Monarchs and our Milkweed in the Classroom tabs. So again, this kind of just explains the 3 ways people can participate. And then you click here, the link here takes you to the Monarch Joint Venture website where people can actually sign up. And then we're still kind of working on the Milkweed in the Classroom. Haven't done a lot to this yet because we're still kind of working on the actual Pheasants Forever, Quail Forever website version of this, but this explains what it is. And then for right now, we will have an online order form on our website once it's done. It should go live, I'm hoping, within the next couple weeks. But until then, if you're interested, just email me. We'll get you on the list and get you going for this upcoming school year. So that's the Habitat Ed blog, where we're kind of housing all of our Habitat Ed information, program information. And again, all the stuff is in the process of being moved to our national website. So hopefully they'll be a little bit easier to find and a little bit more visually appealing once we get that complete. At that time, I would take any questions if anybody has any.
You can answer the does milkweed?
Oh,
yeah.
Yes, that's a good one. All right, it's a good first one. So, and if Jake, I see Jake's still on here, so Jake, jump in here. But so the milkweed,
you can cover it, but I'll fill in if I need to.
Feel free to fill in. So basically, milkweed is toxic to cattle. That is a fact, but they have to eat a great deal of it. I mean, it's an astronomical amount in order for it to actually be lethal to cattle. So there really aren't too many documented cases of it actually happening out there. It is toxic. Most of the time, cattle stay away from it anyway, unless your pasture just happens to be full of it, and that's all there is for the cattle to eat. Most of the time, they're not going to touch the stuff anyway. So it's very, very, very rare for cattle to die from eating too much milkweed. But it is toxic. That is a fact. And feel free to add to that, Jake.
No, I think you did a great job. It's part of the reason that it's appealing to monarchs is because of the toxicity, and that provides a valuable trait for them down the road. And so, but yeah, with a cow, it's going to take a lot of milkweed to prove really to be any kind of an issue. And so I think for the most part, I wouldn't worry about it. Like Drew said, if there's a large patch of it that you can either fence off, or if you're haying, maybe skip that area and make sure it doesn't end up in a bale. Shouldn't have any issues with it at all. So I get that question a lot from landowners that are looking at doing pollinator plantings, or encouraged to leave milkweed in their pasture ground. So, great question.
Very good question.
All right. Does anybody else have any other questions for Drew? Or we've got Jacob, who's also a monarch expert on here, so we can definitely bounce off of both of them. Charles, I see iPhone. I see you're giving a thumbs up. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or if you're asking a question. We got you're on mute right now, just to let you know.
No, I'm good. Thanks for all the info. That was great.
So for everybody, if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask. We have recorded this. We are going to share this with everybody. For the Illinois individuals, I'm saying on my end, I will share that flyer that we got from, or that Drew showed, talking about the milkweed in the classroom. Also share our youth pollinator habitat education booklet with you that we created, which I don't think Drew showed on this. And then I also have an Illinois specific document that just has some things I've picked up from doing these pollinator events and outreach programs through the year to kind of try and help chapters out. We'll try to get that sent out tomorrow. I'm not quite sure how the Zoom recordings work, so we're going to figure that out after we get off of this with you all, but we will be getting some information out to you. You guys, if nobody else has any questions, we will let you guys go, and we really appreciate you taking the time out of your Wednesday or Tuesday evening to come see us and learn a little bit more and help further the mission of Pheasants Forever and Quail Forever. All right, well, thank you everybody so much. Have a good rest of the evening and hope to see you at one of our future webinars. Our next one is going to be August 5th. It's going to be Kim and I, and we're going to be going over the logistics of how to host a Learn to Shoot event. So hope to see some of you there.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good night.